Hi YouTube, Engineer Boy 100. Well, my half shafts, axle shafts, drive shafts, whatever you want to call them, on my little Toyota Corolla finally died. So it's time for me to install some new ones, and I think the ones I got are pretty nice. Let's go over to the table and check them out, and I'll show you what I got. These constant velocity shafts are pretty good looking. I was really impressed with the way they were packed. They came with these little foam ends to protect the ends of the shafts. They came in plastic bags. They came fast. Shipping was great. They even included some little replacement cotter pins in the nut holder. That was a nice touch in Ziploc bags. So overall, the build quality looks good. There's really no way of telling until you install them. Got them off eBay. So I'll go ahead and install them, let you guys watch me. Let's get right into it. So the first thing you want to do after you remove the tires and jack up the car is remove the plastic undercover so we have access to the transmission. On the transmission there are two drain plugs. There's two plugs. One's a drain plug and one's a field plug. The field plug is in the front of the transmission right here, and the drain plug is lower. It's around the side over here on the bottom right here. The bolts are 24 millimeter or 15/16. Either one will work. Now let's go ahead and drain the transmission so it doesn't leak all over when we take out the axle shafts. I'm going to go ahead and remove the upper bolt on the transmission, the field bolt, so it can vent and it'll drain more smoothly. Watch. See that? Beautiful. Next, I'm going to remove this brake caliper and hang it with a bungee cord from the spring on the strut. Manual impact hammer. You want to be careful not to drop your caliper, mess up your brake line. Take off your disc, and then hang your caliper on your bungee cord. Alright. See, there's oil I hear from the boot on the half shaft leaking its oil. It's time to go. So, next we're going to go ahead and take off this cotter pin and center bolt and release the hub from the strut so we can move and articulate this hub to take the half shaft out of the transmission and out of this hub, and then we'll just swap in the new one. Do the same thing for the other side. There's a very important detail I want to point out about installing these axle shafts. On the end that goes into the transmission, there's a retaining ring right here. You see how that's hanging down? If you try to install the shaft with this ring hanging down like this, you will have a very difficult, if not impossible, time installing the shaft. The broken portion of the ring needs to be on the bottom, as on this shaft here. Okay, the broken portion needs to be on the bottom so that it's clear and that you can You'll get a little resistance on the sides, but you'll be able to tap on the little notched portion here. There's notches. You put a screwdriver or chisel or something there, and you can tap the shaft into the transmission. But if you don't pay attention and you have this ring down like this, it will interfere with installation and make it virtually impossible to install. Very important detail. Please pay attention to that if you attempt this task. It will make the job hell on earth if you do not pay attention to this. Okay, next. Now, before we can install those beautiful new shafts, we've got 4 more steps to take out the old and put in the new. Number 1, we're going to have to take loose this knuckle here from the steering arm. Then we're going to have to disconnect the strut here. There's 2 bolts. Disconnect that from the hub. Next, we'll have to take off this 30mm nut so that we can release the shaft from the hub. Then we'll go up underneath and we'll tap out the old shaft from the transmission. I'll show you that now. I'll use this groove notched out on the inside of the shaft here, and I'll tap it out using my favorite chisel and baby sledgehammer, which are right here. First, we'll remove the Carter key from the ball joint, then the 17mm bolt. Now, before I take the nut all the way off, I'll see if I can do it the easy way and tap it a bit with the hammer, but leaving the nut on there prevents me from damaging the threads on the ball joint. There you go. I got lucky. Okay, the steering arm is loose, so now we're going to take the mount bolts off of the strut to hub assembly. Those bolts are 19mm. Now we're ready to remove the Carter key and the 30mm nut from the end of the axle shaft. That's the big boy. Now we should be able to manipulate the hub and take out the axle from the hub center. Let's see. Now we can use the hammer and chisel to tap the other end of the axle out of the transmission. So that popped loose quite nicely. Now we can just wiggle it out. Come on, little buddy. We are replacing you with a new one. Now we just pop the new one in and put everything back together. Okay, we're going to install the new axle shaft. I want to reiterate that when you do that, the retaining ring on the end of the shaft, you need to make sure the opening on that ring is down. The opening on the ring is down. Very, very important. And then once I put the shaft into the transmission, I'll just use the sliding hammer method to just tap the shaft in using the shaft itself. Just pushing it back and forth and letting it hit itself into position. Here we go. There we go. And now it's in. Now all we do is put it back together with the hub and the strut and the control arm for steering, the ball joint, and do the other side. And that's how you install struts. I'll show you the other side when it's done. Okay, the right side is all taken loose, and we did it the same way we did the left side. We first took loose the ball joint on the steering arm, a little castle nut, and a cotter pin here. Then we took loose the two 19mm bolts that mount the strut to the hub, and those bolts, we put those back in just so you could see them. And then we took loose the 30mm nut off of the hub that held the old shaft in place. And here we have the new shaft on deck ready to go in. And we'll show you both of those, the right and the left, but once they're both installed. All right, we're done with both the right and the left. Here's the right side. Let's go down and around and take a peek at it. They look really good. I really like them. Here's the right side. And here is the left side. We'll do a down and around and let you take a look at that one as well. If you're wondering what that green is, those are the struts we put on in a different video. I'll link that one to this one, so if you want to look at that for this vehicle, you can see that too. But here's our shiny new struts. There it is going into the transmission. Here it is going into the hub. And that is how you change your half shafts, your drive shafts, your axle shafts, whatever you want to call them, for a 1994 Toyota Corolla. Don't forget to put your oil back in your transmission. Thanks again for watching, and have a nice day.